Axios had this story yesterday, and it seems valid. Some Democrats are expressing concern about Joe Biden's strategy, and that is to paint Donald Trump as basically an insurrectionist. Say they talk about January 6th, democracy in the balance, talk about Donald Trump's character. They don't think that that is going to be a winning strategy, but it's one they used in 2020. It's one they used in 2022. They don't think it's going to work this time. And it's really people speaking up within his circle that come out and say, hey, you know what? I think we should expand our repertoire. They're just knocked out of the circle.
Right.
So they're pretty much insular right now, and that's what they're going to go with.
From that article, it says it is unclear to many of us watching from the outside whether the president and his core team realize how dire the situation is right now and whether they even have a plan to fix it. And that is scary.
And it is scary for the people inside the circle, but apparently as well, a lot of people inside the circle who are kind of freaking out are afraid to speak up because then it's going to be like, oh, you're Debbie Downer. Get the heck out of here because we're going to win. But it doesn't look like that right now.
But I thought Donald Trump was the one.
That's what I was just getting to say.
A bunch of yes men.
I find that fascinating because for 4 years, we were told that the former president surrounded himself with yes men and no one could actually give him advice. I think, honestly, it's going to be the one thing that hurts Biden. It was his... When you think about Joe Biden in the past, his appeal to people was he was an average day guy. At least appeared to be that way.
He was a moderate.
He was a moderate, and also was his little secret sauce was he could conversate with people and move with people and do the things that were not even considered gaffes at the time, but you weren't supposed to say that. But he resonated with the people. Now he doesn't have that, and he's not speaking the people's language. I don't know if you can have someone on the debate stage that spent 40 years of his political career being that being his asset, but we'll see.
It's not just that Joe Biden is losing ground, it's that Donald Trump is gaining ground. You go from 7% to now 21%.
I don't think he's going to pull his shoe. That was my phone.
That was my phone, bro. That was my. Oh man. Oh, we gotta go get my phone now. This sucks. It says Joe Biden reading the polls. Okay, baby, we're gonna do a big breakdown today of what's really happening because splattered all across your social media feeds right now is probably a single Fox News poll showing Joe Biden is beating Donald Trump. And we are going to break down that fake news. We're going to go into the actual data. We're going to show you how polling is broken from, depending on the kind of polling that you're doing. We're going to talk to real pollsters about what these polls mean. And also we're going to sort of set the table to say, don't head into the election the way that Hillary Clinton headed into 2016, right? With overconfidence and a overt assumption that you are already the victor. Okay, so it's very good. We know we already have the victory, right, in life, and so now we must go and achieve it. Okay, nobody said it wouldn't take work. Now we're going to put in the work. Biden touts new poll showing slight lead, but Democrat insiders are panicking about what it really means. Laura Trump says Donald Trump will accept the GOP nomination from inside of a prison. Are you ready for a Donald Trump nomination speech inside of a jail cell? Huh? Okay, get ready. Rep. Kevin Hern joins the show. My name is Benny Johnson, and this is The Benny Show. So as we see the election tightening, I think that tightening will all stop this time next week when there is a debate between these two men. ALX, is there any word out on whether they have allowed Joe Biden to sit during the debate? My thoughts on this is very simple. They should totally let Joe Biden sit and Donald Trump should stand. That's what it should look like, okay? I'm going off on a tangent here, but they should let... So the Biden campaign asked to be seated. So you can be seated, right? I used to be seated during the show. You know? I used to sit down, but actually it's better for you to stand. It's better for you to stand generally as a person and as a human being. It's good for your blood flow. Sitting is new smoking, as they say. But also, it sort of shows that you have the energy to, like, You know, do the show. You know, be present, be here, right? Live in the world. Okay. They should let Joe Biden sit, and they should let Donald Trump stand. And you should let that be the visual for the country. Are you in favor of that? Let me know. Let's pin a poll in the chat. I think Joe Biden should be allowed to sit. And they should show like a wide shot the whole time of Donald Trump standing and Joe Biden in a wheelchair. Like doing the Stephen Hawking, right? The text to type kind of thing. Right? Maybe even with the wide enough shot, you could actually see Barack Obama's hand directly up Joe Biden's backside, moving him around like a meat muppet. Anyway, what's the point of all of this? As the tangents we get on. So as the polls tighten, and they are tightening, we're going to talk about it today, what it all means. As the polls tighten, what we are going to see is we're going to see some real nervousness about what a Biden 2.0 term would actually bring. Now, God help us all, right? No single human being in American history has ever deserved less a second opportunity to continue what they've been doing. But nonetheless, what that would mean would be forever war. What that would mean would be like straight up open, blown open, like World War III with Russia and China. And maybe that's the goal, actually. Maybe that's the goal. It would mean American default in our currency, like without question, without stopping spending, like immediately. We're going to default. The American dollar is going to be worthless. Saudi just went off the petrodollar. Saudi Arabia. This should have been the biggest story on planet Earth. And so what's that going to mean for our currency? It's going to mean we got to be bailed out by the World Bank. Who controls the World Bank? George Soros. Is this the plan all along? Have we like hacked the plan here just by paying attention? That's why we invest in gold. That's why we invest. Our friends at Allegiance Gold can take care of you in times like this. These are the kind of times where you need to have a hedge against the American dollar. All right? Trust me. We can like see these things. Ladies and gentlemen, go to protectwithbenny.com today. Call 844-66-BENNY. This is the company that I trust with my precious metals. Just diversify a little bit, okay? Just diversify a little bit. You see the choppy shores, the choppy seas that are ahead of us, and what's every country in the world buying right now? Gold. Every country in the world is buying gold. Okay. Right now, get up to $5,000 of free silver with a qualifying purchase. Don't get fooled. Okay. Go gold today. Protectwithbenny.com today. My friends at Allegiance will take care of you. Okay. So here we go. All right. We were watching this morning. I put up the opinions from the Supreme Court here. We were watching this morning. There could have been a decision by the Supreme Court to grant Donald Trump immunity in the January 6th case that they're bringing against him in Washington, D.C. That's, of course, on hold until the Supreme Court issues an immunity decision there. Also, January 6th cases the Supreme Court could potentially spring hundreds, if not thousands, of J6ers from prison based on the the thuggish, militant interpretation of charging people with trespassing on federal property. I mean, if that is now the rule, then they need to, of course, lock up every single Palestine protester, every BLM protester, every Brett Kavanaugh protester. Brett Kavanaugh sitting on the court right now. Like, these people mobbed him, and they all deserve to be in prison, like hard time, doing hard time in prison, in jail. These are like the rules that they made, right? They'll never be enforced, of course, against the left. They'll only be enforced against anybody who dares practice their First Amendment rights, which is the grounds that this is being argued on. You know, the First Amendment says you have the freedom, and in fact, you have the obligation to petition your grievances of your government, right? And so people who peacefully do that are not criminals. They're protected by their first rights, not their only rights, but certainly the ones that our founders thought were first. And so peacefully petitioning your government is your obligation, actually, when your government is evil or wrong. And your government is always evil and wrong, and always has been evil and wrong, and there's no such thing as a perfect government, okay? The best you can do is try. And so the Supreme Court did not make those decisions this morning. I want to show you, right here. These are the decisions that were made this morning. You have Starbucks decisions, tax cases, various like back and forths between municipalities and the federal government. This is what was all decided this morning. ALX, if there's any big top line news about the decisions this morning, like ping me on it. But this is what they were, and unfortunately, I'm not wise enough to know all the details of every one of these cases. But all I know is that none of them shattered the earth, right? None of them broke. The system that we currently live under, has not been shattered or broken in any monumental way that would preclude us sort of rewriting entirely the show. So, ladies and gentlemen, that may happen tomorrow. So, in fact, the stakes are very high tomorrow that they will be announcing the Trump immunity case, and that is why they decided to have a Friday decision. This is what they did with Roe v. Wade. This is why they decided to have a Friday decision, which is not normal for the court, and why they have a bunch of fencing up around the court, a bunch of gates around the court. When they do, it's amazing. It's amazing when they do something. When they do something that is, let's put up the chain link fence around the court, like the military fencing around the court. If we have an image of that, please. Just want to make a quick point because I reported in Washington D.C. for 15 years, and I stood outside of the court for many decisions. Okay, I stood outside the court. I lived around the corner from the Supreme Court. Take a baseball, I hit the Supreme Court from my front step, right? And my life as a young reporter in Washington D.C. And a conservative was marked, literally was defined by Supreme Court case after Supreme Court case. Is that's the fence? They have razor wire up around the court? That's the fence? No, okay. ALX is saying no. Good. Let's take that down. Okay, take it down, guys. Come on. Okay, jeez. Let's be accurate here. Goodness gracious. Okay, so, I mean, could be the fence. That's probably what they need. The point I'm trying to make here is that my entire young life was defined by having case after case after case that decimated conservative values and institutions throughout, and upheld Obamacare. Like every Supreme Court case was ruled over and was decided over on a liberal majority, and never once, not one time, did I see a fence put up around the court. So every single ruling, I mean, it was round after round after round of just the destruction and decimation of institutions and rights and things that conservatives held dear. Every single time that happened, nobody once put up a fence. There was never once even the sniff of like a Republican mob going in and burning the place down, right? Not once. But now, ladies and gentlemen, when they are preparing to simply probably just like kick the Trump immunity case back down to the appellate court, now they have to put up a fence. Do we have the fence, ladies and gentlemen? Now they have to put up a fence around the court. And I've never seen that before. I've been there for hundreds of court decisions, never seen it. But now, today, preparing for this Trump decision, they have decided to put up a fence. And this is what that fence looks like. I guess it's not the giant razor wire that we incorrectly put up. We apologize for that. But it is a fence nonetheless, and I guess that proves something. I guess which side is violent? Which side is so angry? Which side do our authorities actually fear? Well, ladies and gentlemen, this sort of shows you And also a very important note, and it's very hard to find this footage, but I was there that day. Amazing. Very hard to find the footage. The left, they've tried so hard to delete this because they weren't ready to play this card. And they knew this was a card they were going to play against our side, and they knew exactly how they were going to manufacture it. But the true insurrection, if you're going to look at like actual storming of federal buildings and attacking of members of Congress, right? Like the assaulting of the elected officials, like everything that they claimed happened on January 6th. You want to really see that happen? Go back through the Kavanaugh stuff. I know I'm ranting here this morning, but you got to go back through it. It is only near and dear to my heart because I was there. I was the guy creating most of the viral clips, like the Lindsey Graham clip and everything. Like I was there. I was the guy with the camera. And you can see that the left actually stormed the Supreme Court and we're ripping the doors of the Supreme Court open. There's footage of it. You could see it. The left didn't get their way, and so they had their own January 6th. They did. And I hate that I have to say that terminology, but like this is now the written nomenclature. So rewind the clock back 2 or 3 years when Kavanaugh was appointed, and the court looks like this. You can see what the court looks like. They stormed the court and then tried to rip the doors open on the court, tried to attack the justices. They were trying to kill the justices. They were trying to burn the court to the ground. Images up. Look at this. These are protected, like very sacred, protected doors. Look at these orcs. It's like Helm's Deep. Look at this. You can smell that photo. I'm in there. I'm stuck in there somewhere. I was like over on the wall, like trying to record with my cell phone. Look at this. Never see this footage, can you? Can't find this footage. Can't find it anywhere. No. Can't find it anywhere. It's like doesn't exist. They're trying to rip open the doors. They're assaulting police officers. They're trying to enter the Supreme Court to harm justices, their staff, or burn the place down. And that is exactly what they would have done if they were allowed inside. And Democrats looked at that and said, this is such horrible. They deep six this, ban all of this stuff from social media. Look at them go. Look at these mongoloid monsters. Look at these troglodytical orcs. Look at them. Look at them. They're ready to burn the place down. Look at that guy. He's ready to burn the place down. Look at him. This is because what was the sin here? Did they like get rid of the First Amendment or something? What was the sin here? Exactly. They get rid of seed oils? Soy? They banned soy? Yeah. No. They through the Senate process, they confirmed Brett Kavanaugh. That's what they did. Now, the left saw this imagery and said, this is really dangerous. You know, the American public isn't going to like this, so we better guarantee, we should manufacture something like this on January 6th. That's what they said. That this probably was like the dry run to put that in place. None of these people charged. None of these people charged. Now, the Supreme Court, I think, is ready to remand. This case is called Fisher. Is going to be ready to either remand or to give like sharper and narrower charging verdicts here. I mean, again, they are charging every J6er with trespassing. You trespassed on government property. Like, how's that even possible? Like, if you're just wandering around outside a federal building, like, how's that even possible? Are these people trespassing? The cops are telling them to leave. They are behaving in a riotous manner. Why aren't every one of these people in a DC in a gulag? Awaiting trial for 3 years. Look at the door. You could see the door like vibrating. They're close. If they could crack that door, they would storm the court. Goodness gracious. Can we hear that? I mean, is this inside the Senate building with Kavanaugh? Yeah, that's exactly right. Bump it a little bit. Goodness gracious. This is inside the building. have physically saw senators get assaulted. I physically witnessed multiple senators. They were in their little elevators. These are pretty old men. They get like these people storming in. These protesters would storm in to like assault the senators. Verbally, physically. It's crazy, guys. Crazy. So anyway, I think we're like, get ready for us to use this. We're sort of building this on the fly, but like as we listen to potentially tomorrow, it is very high probability that tomorrow we're going to get these decisions. As we get these decisions, have this footage in the back of your head. Okay, be ready to have that footage in the back of your mind. So yeah, Robbie was working at the Senate at the time. Producer Robbie was working at the Senate at the time. Said that all the buildings were on lockdown because they couldn't keep track of all the orcs. So anyway, those people get pulled. Okay, sorry for the rant this morning, but I just want to like sort of lay the groundwork for the Supreme Court's decisions, which I believe will be tomorrow. So tomorrow's going to be one banger of a show. We're really building out the show and planning on that for tomorrow. And we'll go live as soon as the decisions are in, right? If decisions hit, boom, we'll go live. So decisions come at 10 a.m. So anyway, prepare for that. See a little bit of how this is kind of like our producers conversation, right? You see a little bit of how the show is made. Those people get pulled. And this is what we're going to talk about today. So all those people who should be in prison, right? Based on Democrats' own rules, not based on the rules that I want. Okay? But honestly, based on the rules that I don't want them all to go to jail. I don't want that to be the country that we live in. I believe quite I would be called an extremist in how much I believe in the words of our Constitution, right? I'm a simple Christian, so I believe in the words of my Bible. I also really believe in the words of my Constitution, okay? I'm not saying they're the same thing. I'm simply saying that these are documents that you should read, and that you should interpret them as they're written, right? You shouldn't try to read modern politics into these documents, okay, and into these books and into the Holy Scriptures. Like, don't do that. That's a bad thing that will lead you down a bad path, okay? Read it and believe it. And so when the Constitution says you have a right to petition your government grievances, even if those grievances are against Brett Kavanaugh, I don't want you thrown in prison. I don't want the norm to be you get thrown in jail for petitioning your government grievances, right? Now, if you bang on the Supreme Court door and you say you're going to kill a Supreme Court member, then you go to jail, right? And if you punch a cop, go to jail, right? You behave criminally, go to jail. But if you're just petitioning your government, that's what I think. These people get pulled, okay? So those people that storm the Supreme Court, they're walking free today, and they get a phone call from Fox News. All right? And they get a phone call from Fox News. They probably don't say it's Fox News. They probably say it's, hi, I'm with Insights Polling, doing a poll right now for a major media company, and I want to know if you like Biden or Trump. And those people answer, right? Of course, you know who they're going to like, and those microwave brain answers get sort of folded into this poll that you're now seeing from Fox News, saying that Joe Biden is up by 2 points on Donald Trump. That's a big reversal from a couple months ago where Trump was up. Okay, so this is really important, and it's something that has made all the news, but it's also something that we need to talk about when it comes to how to read polls, right? Because when you read polls, you have to look into the crosstabs, because what you're going to get is you're going to get these intrinsic biases built into the polls, all right? And it happens on both sides, and we've been very, very clear about this. It's why trends matter so much, and it's why tracking major trends and human behavior, and also polls don't vote, right? Polls don't vote. Humans vote. Humans who show up, vote, right? And the only humans who have shown up over the last 6 months for Democrat policies or politics have been Democrats who hate Joe Biden. We've seen them ourselves down here in Tampa. We've seen them all across the nation, like the Hamas holes who show up to protest Joe Biden. So, ladies and gentlemen, polls don't vote, but nonetheless, let's go ahead and look at the crosstabs here with Fox News. It's very important to see this poll and to see where we're headed. First off, let's look at the poll here. Let's scroll down there, Klein. There it is. Okay, so we can zoom in here, and you can see that Donald Trump overtook Joe Biden back in 2023, and through 2023, Donald Trump had a pretty significant edge on Joe Biden, and then in 2024, May of 2024, you can see Donald Trump slump a bit by 2 points. All right, so Trump slumps a bit by 2 points, and Joe Biden bumps up by significant by 5 points. All right, in these polls. How are these polls conducted? The polls are conducted with national registered voters. So there's your first problem here. And how many registered voters? Can a producer grab me that? How many voters in this poll? So national registered voters. So what does this mean? Here's your first sign of trouble in a poll like this. So what this means is that they are just calling people in states like Rhode Island. You have no idea if every person in this poll was simply in Fulton County and they were called in Fulton County. You don't know. And it's only 1,000 voters. So the problem with that is that not only is it just not only is this poll just 1,000 voters, but you probably call people who are deeply affected by news cycles and deeply affected by advertising, and Joe Biden is blowing out Donald Trump in advertising right now. And that potentially accounts for the swing, along with the Donald Trump guilty conviction. So if you're a Democrat, your anger against Trump is crystallized. If you're like a hardened Democrat, you believe that everything that has been told to you about Donald Trump is now finally set firm, okay, like concrete. And so you are going to say, yes, I hate Donald Trump, even more after that guilty conviction. You're going to say, yes, I hate Donald Trump. But those people always hated Donald Trump. They were never going to vote for Donald Trump, okay? These are nationally registered voters. The margin of error is 3 points. So this is already within the margin of error. And that margin of error is built in because of sort of the scientific inaccuracy of just asking 1,000 people whether they like Donald Trump or Joe Biden. And depending on the state where those people live, and depending on like where they are, this is not a swing state poll. This is why I'd love to see this poll broken out by state. I think that's really important. So you have here now, you know, when you factor in the third-party candidates, and we'll scroll on to the next one, and you can see that the margin becomes de minimis. Then it becomes an absolute like neck and neck tie, right? Trump at 42 and Joe Biden at 43. So then it becomes the total neck and neck tie. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's jump into the crosstabs. Let's go ahead and have a look at like what the actual issues show. All right, and then we'll be able to follow the trends a little better here. Okay, go.
But even with him slightly in the lead, most voters still don't trust the president on these key issues. The new polls show former President Trump leading on immigration, the economy, the Israel-Hamas war, guns, and standing up to elite interests. Trump also leading among new voters, edging out Biden in a head-to-head by 4 points. And with 1 week until the candidates take the stage, even more top Democrats are now sounding the alarm on the Biden-Harris campaign strategy. The Democratic strategist in touch with the Biden campaign telling Axios, quote, "It's unclear whether the president and his core team realize how dire the situation is right now. That is scary."
So we have the actual confirmation here of why this bumped up a bit. Because polling is broken, man. Fox depended a ton on landlines for this poll, and it is incredible how often we sort of miss this. older Americans, like old, like in their 70s Americans, I'm not trying to knock them, but that demographic is the demographic that swings super hard for Joe Biden and has been one of the only demographics that has actually calcified around Joe Biden. Okay. Maybe those people don't like the attacks on his age or being told that an old person can't do this job. But I'm here to tell you an old person can't do this job. Okay. I'm here to tell you that the office of the presidency, unless you have people who are truly like genetically gifted, like somebody like Donald Trump, who, as we have determined time and time again with empirical evidence on this program, is aging in reverse, this is not a job for you. I don't think this is a job for me. I'm like maxed out. We got this show and we got a couple kids at home and we're raising them and they're young and we're maxed out, you know? Like we're at maximum energy here. Maximum energy expenditure that we can do. The job wouldn't be for me. You have these people who are, who just have this. You'd have to assume that it's simply a gift from God. This eternal energy spring, and Donald Trump's one of those men who have it. And so, age is far less of a number, and you know this, right? You know 40-year-olds who act like 70-year-olds, who haven't taken care of themselves, who are slobs, who can barely get up a flight of stairs, okay? Who are always complaining about their knees and their backs and their necks and everything. You know those people. Like, age is just a number, and it's not a binary number. Yes, Joe Biden is 5 years older than Donald Trump, I think. Yeah. Joe Biden's 5 years older than Donald Trump. So people are like, that's not a lot of years. They could have been in high school together. Okay. But that doesn't matter. Like, Donald Trump and Joe Biden are two very different people. But there is a group of Americans who are very offended and very angry, and they like Joe Biden because he's old. Okay. And we're going to vote because we actually want the old guy in office because we're old. Okay. And that's showing in the polling and the trending. And so those people are backing Joe Biden. Now, what does the poll show? The poll shows that a considerable portion of the respondents were landlines. Do you know young people with landlines? I got little kids, like, they don't even know what a landline is. I read them the original Curious George books, and George is on a telephone with a cord, and they don't know what that is. Like, what is that, Dad? How do I even explain it? Right? So that may be some of your little Biden bump there in the first place. And that's also the generation of people that are going to be like, oh, I can't vote for a convicted felon. Yeah, okay. All of the founding fathers are convicted felons of their era. You know, half of them went to jail. Half of them died penniless. Like, live in reality. Okay? Live in reality. This is reality. This is a poll. This is what it looks like when Joe Biden goes to a Democrat city. Look at this image. This is what it looks like when Joe Biden heads to downtown Philadelphia. Now, Donald Trump's going to go to downtown Philadelphia, I think this weekend. Is that correct, Alex? I think Trump's going to Philly. Okay, yeah. Alex nods and says, yeah. Trump's going to Philly this weekend. So we'll be able to do a really nice, sharp comparison contrast here. This is what it looks like when Joe Biden is in a Democrat city. I don't really. Let's zoom in here. Is there even a crowd? Is there anyone? Okay, you can see this is the background here is that this was at a school, and that the kids were forced to go for credit, so they had to go. So they were able to like muscle kids into the seat on a threat to their academic careers. So that teeny pittance of an audience, that was still all by force. That's an audience by force. Okay? Very similar to actually when you see those audiences of North Koreans clapping for Kim Jong-un. Like this is very similar. This Joe Biden event is quite similar. me cry, dear leader. Like they're forced to do it at gunpoint. They don't actually like Kim Jong-un. Don't listen to what they say when he leaves the room. But yeah, the look is great, right? You are so happy to be here, aren't you? Right? Yeah. Okay. That's what it'll look like. Here's a Joe Biden event in New Hampshire. This is apparently a big time state that Joe Biden's going to win.
This is 30 minutes before the President of the United States is supposed to be in this room. Feel the excitement?
I've seen more people in the basement of my grandmother's Methodist church, in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Like, not a hugely densely populated place. Wasn't a particularly well attended church. But when they had free cookies downstairs and lemonade after service, there were more people than in that Joe Biden hall there. Meanwhile, ladies and gentlemen, this is what it looked like this weekend in Detroit, right? This is a good example of what it looked like in Detroit for Donald Trump. Let's make that big, please. Yeah, there you go. Good. Okay. Wow. Interesting. A little more than the basement of a Methodist church. Or a funeral, which is always the vibe of a Joe Biden event. Wow, I thought Detroit was supposed to be Democrat city. It's so interesting. How'd that happen? Boy, oh boy. So fascinating. Okay, so well done, all. Of course, here's also Donald Trump in the Bronx. These are, again, polls don't vote. Polls don't vote. People vote. So, you do the whole thing like the Trump rally, it doesn't matter that nobody shows up for a Joe Biden rally. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. It doesn't matter there were more protesters outside. Yeah, it does matter, actually. These people matter. If these people are willing to wait in line on a very hot day inside of a Democrat district in New York, like a super Democrat district in New York, for Donald Trump, then that means most likely, based on human behavior, they'll happily wait in line to vote. If no one shows up for Joe Biden in the same location, that means there's no energy for anyone to actually show up and vote. This is why ballot harvesting, of course, is so important for Democrats. And paying for votes with packs of cigarettes and welfare cards and whatever else they plan on doing this election. So there you go. This is very important. This is why I love the too big to rig nomenclature of the Trump campaign this time around. So Trump's only down by 7 points in New York. How crazy is that? This is insane. In the 2024 polling average for New York, Biden is up by just 7 points. This is New York State. That's just wild. It's just wild. A CNN data guru left speechless just this week as Donald Trump headed for historic performance with black voters. Again, jaws on the floor. Here we go. Clip decline.
It's 70%. That's a 16-point drop, John. And more than that, it's not just that Joe Biden is losing ground, it's that Donald Trump is gaining ground. You go from 7%, single digits at this point in 2020, to now 21%. And again, John, I keep looking for signs that this is going to go back to normal, and I don't see it yet in the polling. If anything, right now we're careening towards a historic performance for a Republican presidential candidate, the likes of which we have not seen in 6 decades.
And when you dig into this number here, what is the makeup of that number?
This is where we get very interesting. So I decided to dive deeper into the crosstabs, figure out where is it that Joe Biden is truly struggling among black voters. All right, so this is black voters, Biden versus Trump margin. Look at black voters age 50 and older, and you'll see, look, Joe Biden was leading amongst this group at this point by 83 points back in 2020. Now it's 74 points. So yeah, a slight decline in that margin, but nothing out of this world. Look at black voters under the age of 50. Holy cow, folks. Holy cow. Look at this. Joe Biden was up by 80 points among this group back at this point in 2020. Look at where that margin has careened down towards. It's now just, get this, 37 points. That lead has dropped by more than half, Mr. Berman. I just never seen anything like this. I'm like speechless, because you always look at history and you go, okay, this is a historic moment. If this polling is anywhere near correct, we are looking at a historic moment right now where black voters under the age of 50, which have historically been such a big part of the Democratic coalition, are leaving it in droves.
That is a huge drop over a 4-year period.
That is a huge drop. Imagine being on CNN and watching those numbers. What are you going to say? How are you going to do it? How are you going to spin that? You can't. That's why we love that guy, Harry Enton is his name, and far be it for us to try and hype somebody on CNN, but this dude is I don't know how else to say it, and please don't come for me by saying that CNN hired an actual reporter, but the dude's an actual reporter. I have my own biases. I bring my biases to the world. But data is one of those things that cuts hard against your biases and checks your worldview, right? And sort of puts you back in your box. And this happens to everybody. And he's just one of those data guys that just reads the data and says, I'll let the numbers and the math bring me to where I need to be. And so we love clips like that. It really does just kind of rips the coffin varnish off of everything, and it's good. Places like CNN really, quite frankly, need that that stripping down of the bias in the worldview, and there's nothing like hard data to do that. Like the hard data of everyone in America favoring mass deportations. Biden advisor rattled by poll showing U.S. favor of mass deportations. Oh my. 62% in this poll say they want deportations. Say that the Donald Trump policies are the policies for me. Go.
And yet, Tom, a lot of voters seem to think it's not the smart thing to do. CBS News polling recently found that 62% of Americans are in favor of a national program to deport all undocumented immigrants, all 11 million of them. So how much support do you think there would be for the White House plan that was announced today?
I'd love to sit down with your polling team and show them how they've gotten this wrong.
Okay. Maybe we should have continued that answer. I'd love to tell you how it's all wrong. All the data against us is wrong. Okay. Hey, little funny little man with your funny little teeth. How about this? Show me how this data is wrong right here. Show me how this is wrong. Donald Trump's up by 18 points in Iowa. Show me how that's wrong. And if Donald Trump's up by 18 points in Iowa, how does Joe Biden win Michigan and Wisconsin? How does Joe Biden even win Minnesota or Illinois? Why don't you explain that to me? Because Iowa, Wisconsin, I'm from Iowa. They're all very similar people. Okay? There's that Midwestern block there. And don't come for me for saying this. You just got to zoom out a bit and say, that's a culture there in the Midwest. And they vote very similarly. It's very hardworking, blue-collar culture that has similar needs and requests, right, of the society. And Donald Trump is winning in this Midwestern state by 20 points. Yeah, okay. So that's polling outside of the margin of fraud then in every other Midwestern state. It's funny that you bring up Minnesota because Donald Trump is now leading in Minnesota. Here, ladies and gentlemen, you can see Donald Trump up in Minnesota. That is something remarkable. When was the last time a Republican won Minnesota? What a good question. I don't even know. Reagan? I think that Mondale actually won only Minnesota. Maybe I'm wrong. Am I misremembering that? Donald Trump leads by 7 in Arizona. How do you make that up? How many Republican areas can you rig the machines? Right? Like you better get started, right? Okay, don't give them too many ideas. Speaking of Arizona, John McCain's daughter, Meghan McCain, is saying that there's no way that Joe Biden wins Michigan or Wisconsin if Trump is actually up by 20 in Iowa. So, Mr. Biden advisor, can you tell us how all these polls are wrong? Please, we'll sit back and listen. Maybe you can explain it to us. Explain it slowly and simply like you would to a child. So Meghan McCain is straight up saying it's doomsday here. And if you're like, oh, Meghan McCain, she's a lib, that's pretty impressive that a lib would say that. Nah, you haven't seen impressive. Impressive is Nate Silver saying that Joe Biden is the least popular president in American history to ever run for re-election. Zoom in on that chart, please. And you can see here, talk about larger scale trends, because there can always be, you can always just do a landline, great job, Fox News. You do a landline poll to a bunch of people that protested Kavanaugh, and then you can get your little magical Joe Biden bump, right? But this is an actual trend. Okay? This, you can actually see the trend. You can see the trend spike and then stay. Joe Biden is the least popular president in American history. And Nate Silver is sitting here going, is it too late to ask, how do you swap out Joe Biden? Because there is absolutely no path forward. Biden has the weakest lead among women of any Democrat since 2004. Yikes. Talk about a tough reversal. Man, here's the battlegrounds for real clear. You can see Donald Trump leading in every battleground. We're just trying to put up just a bit of counter data here to what the Biden campaign is going to just slam in your faces till kingdom come. Is this Fox News poll showing that Biden is up by a point. Real Clear Politics toss-up map. You can see here, this is just directly from their webpage. This is not some map that we did in MS Paint overnight, okay, to show our our fetish for what we hope happens on Election Day. This is Real Clear Politics. All the polls lumped together right here. So there you see it. Trump up by 100 electoral votes. Well, there it is. And then, of course, here's the disapproval rating. Is this the same one? Yeah, okay, there it is. Okay, this is the actual live tracking. Disapprove. 38% approve of Joe Biden's handling of this country. Okay, so yeah, this is pretty bad. Ladies and gentlemen, joining the program right now is going to be somebody who could certainly comment on the unpopularity of Joe Biden, as he is somebody who has been fighting against Joe Biden for the better part of the last 4 years. The great Kevin Hern of Oklahoma, chairman of the Republican Study Committee, Ways and Means Committee, joins the program now. So, Congressman, we're doing our best to sort of build a universe here, explaining how hot the dumpster fire is for the Biden regime, and also how humiliating it would be to lose to that rolling dumpster tire fire. And so maybe I could I'll just step back and give you the floor, sir, and say, Joe Biden just is very, very unpopular. I'm sure you see that at home in Oklahoma.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Most unpopular president in modern history, and it's sort of comical that the poll shows him up 1%. I don't know what reality people live in to think that he's a 1% favorite over President Trump at this point in time. He's failing on everything that matters to the American people, whether it's border security, energy security, the economy, foreign policy. He's a failure in every one of those, and yet a poll shows that Joe Biden is up. I do believe what you said earlier, which is we have to have a margin that's outside of the margin of fraud, and it has to be too big to rig, so that they can't say, well, it was an anomaly or those issues. We have to continue to push and push hard to get President Trump back in office.
Yes. So you're from the great state of Oklahoma. I don't know if you know McAllister, Oklahoma, but I had my grandmother lived there, and so I was in Oklahoma quite often. I got to know some really wonderful people in Oklahoma. They're not buying this, right? Like, is there a Biden voter in Oklahoma? Have you located that person? I read the headlines. There was a Biden voter in Oklahoma somewhere.
I haven't seen him. And I can tell you this, across all 77 counties that President Trump has now won 3 times, he is more popular today than he was the first time he ran.
Yes,
and
sir.
we have to remember, this is driving the mainstream media crazy that that President Trump could be ahead, or excuse me, that Joe Biden could be ahead and President Trump could have any possibility of winning. President Trump talks to the American people. We see the tens of thousands of people that show up, and Joe Biden gets tens of people.
Yeah.
And he doesn't show up on time. He can't remember where he's at. He can't remember what part of the stage he's supposed to. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. It's a tragedy.
Yeah, it's a tragedy, and I think that like some of these numbers and some of the erosion, especially with minority communities and women, you see Joe Biden's the least popular with women since 2004. So you're talking John Kerry there. The erosion must come. It must come from inflation. It has to come from the price and the cost of living, because that is such a tax on all of us, such a burden on every American. There's no other way to explain, quite frankly, that erosion other than saying, the government spends too much, creates inflationary cycles, and that's killing us. And it's killing the dollar. Now, you're on Ways and Means. That's a really powerful committee. How the hell do we stop spending so much money that is the only creator of inflation?
Well, certainly we've got to scale back the programs that are not functioning as originally designed to function, that were built, 30s and the 40s and 50s under the FDR New Deals and those things that went on, the Johnson programs. They're out of control, and we're taking in more revenue today than we have in the history of this country. Some 17% of GDP that we're taking in currently, but we're spending at about 25%. So about 8 points higher than money we're taking in. And so when you look at this, we have to go back and look at these programs. We have to put money back in the American people's pocket, as President Trump did back in 2017 with the Trump tax cuts. That was before I got in Congress, but I've been in business 35 years and I was a recipient of that. More investment was done. People were put to work, and we had a very robust economy. We were safe from others around the world. We had a border that was being secured, and we had energy policy that made us dominant. And these policies, the American people remember. They don't have to go back decades or listen to their moms, their dads, their grandfather or grandmothers say, you remember when? The people today know, because they just experienced it 3.5 years ago. And I think that's why you're seeing the polling numbers that the CNN poll showed, with the 80% of under 50, and now that's 30%. I mean, these guys are seeing it is very difficult. Inflation knows no socioeconomic class. It goes after everyone.
Yes. And I think that's also why you see like older voters sort of calcify for Joe Biden, because they had their run, like it's like young people get totally screwed under this system and they can't start lives. I have an entire company of young people, and it's so hard for anybody to just get a house. Just like the first step, right? And like creating some type of value for your life, like buy a house. Like what an impossible feat that is. And I see it every single day. It's, it's the actual, you want to talk about the actual destruction of the American dream. There it is.
Well, certainly. And I think when you look at what President Trump is doing today, it's so unorthodox for a person of one party to go into, say, the Bronx and have thousands of people show up. Go into Detroit, have thousands of people show up. And Joe Biden could never come to Oklahoma and get 10 people to show up. and so when you see those kind of motions that President Trump's going through, I was just with him last Thursday, right the day before his birthday, before he turned 78. He is as energetic and as powerful as he ever has been. I've been with him numerous times over the last 5.5 years in Congress. And I will tell you, his energy is amazing. And then you contrast that to what we're seeing, that what the Democrats are now calling cheap fakes, when we're taking actual footage from pool cameras to show that Joe Biden is freezing time and time again. And you compare that with a person who can speak for an hour and a half with no teleprompters. I mean, people are seeing that. They're seeing the energy. And I tell you, it scares these, these cronies around the world like Putin and Xi Jinping and Kim Jong-un and others, that this powerful president could get back in office. They're going to do everything they can to keep him out.
So, real quickly here, you were with Trump. What'd you discuss? Did you talk about term 2? I assume you would. You are the chairman of the Republican Study Committee. So, for the sake of the audience, I mean, that committee really is the driving force behind what the Republican Party agenda will do. So I assume that's what you talked about with the president.
That's correct. I mean, we have 180 members on the Republican Study Committee. It's the largest caucus in all of Congress, and it's about policy, driving the policies forward, and the politics around selling those policies. And then when it's the most imminent threat to the American taxpayers' pockets are the expiration of the tax code at the end of next year, was going to return $4 trillion of individual taxpayer dollars back to the federal treasury. And again, that is going to be very difficult when you top that on, if you look at the 20% inflation they've had already, and that's an imminent threat to a person's livelihood. The American people are going to vote their pocketbooks. That has always been the case. You can talk about what's happening around the world, but at the end of the day, it's what's happening in each household. And they know that President Trump is the one that had them the wealthiest, and not President Biden. And that's where they're going to return to. I believe the American people, when the swing voters break the way, they're going to look at their internal financial status and say, it was better under Trump than it was under Biden. That's going to be the breaking point.
And that's what you talked about, term 2, driving that policy forward.
That's correct. We're working on both ways and means in Republican Study Committee. Both of us are, both groups, which I serve on, we're talking about how we move this tax policy forward to protect the American taxpayer, make sure they have more money in their pocket instead of sending it to Washington, D.C.
Because as we have covered here multiple times on the program, there did seem to be some knives in the back of the president during the first term, and some real rust in the gears, right, to get policies done. And we've been hearing that those gears have gotten a lot of WD-40 this time around.
Well, it's sort of one of those things where you don't know how good you have it when you're in the moment of goodness. Then you see the contrast with Joe Biden, how quickly he can destroy like the border by eliminating 63 border policies and having 10 million people cross the border, whether it's energy policy, economic policy, 20% inflation. President Trump had no wars, and now we have chaos all over the world. So again, President Trump has those policies, and he'll put those back in place and get us back to the rightful place we need to be.
Okay. Like from your mouth to God's ears, I did have a bit of a Oklahoma-centric question to ask you, and I hope you don't mind, but this is something that's come across my news feed, and it's a wild story, and I think that it actually just made news, more news because of its approval. Apparently, Oklahoma City is going to be building one of the largest towers in the world, and is going to be constructing a brand new like 1,000-foot Abu Dhabi style tower. Apparently, will it be the tallest in America? Potentially. That's what we've been reading from the headlines. Is this going to happen? I think it'd be very cool. I love skyscrapers. Can you tell us, since you're Mr. Oklahoma?
Well, I will tell you this: there's a friendly rival between Tulsa, where my district is, and Oklahoma City, that's about 90 miles away. I think it's some of their jousting with us. I think they got it out there, and it's going so quickly now, and with TV shows and radio shows like yours around the country but I'm not sure it exists. Actually, we still haven't found the guy that's going to fund it, or no dirt has been turned over yet. So again, I think they're wanting us to come back and say we're actually going to build the largest. So we'll see what happens.
So you're saying this could be in Tulsa?
Well, I'm saying with the rival that we have, we should build it here, and we should let them build theirs, and we build one bigger. That's what Oklahoma thing.
I love that. Put this one up. I want to show the full. Put this one up. I want to show like the full skyscraper. This is crazy. I would love that. That would be amazing. Oklahoma's a wonderful place, and if Oklahoma became like the competing skyscraper, there's plenty of room, right, to build. It's good, like good solid land, nice and, you know, relatively flat, right? So it's like, what a great place to build a skyscraper.
We have a nice clear sky. You can see for hundreds of miles. I mean, it would be a great place to do it.
That's right. Okay, all right. Oklahoma. I wasn't planning on getting here in this interview, sir, but I'm glad we did. Oklahoma, skyscraper capital of the world. Get your money out of rat-infested Manhattan, where every Republican goes to prison anyway, and get down to Oklahoma. Good red state.
That's a fact.
That's a fact. All right. Mr. Chairman, thank you so much for being on the program. I want to put up your social media here, encourage everybody to follow Chairman Hearn, and do it now, because when you want that tour of the world's tallest skyscraper in Tulsa, Oklahoma, you know who to call. All right. And you heard it here first. Everybody get over there and follow Congressman Kevin Hearn. Godspeed, sir.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right. Ooh, baby. Okay. So, potentially, you have been hearing from us on this program, and I've been pretty open about it, that with our travels, as ever, we do these travels, we do these really long meet and greets, and we had a little bit of a tickle in our throat. Maybe you've perceived it during our lives, but we'll have a little bit of a hear that? Yeah, a little bit of a cough. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is times like these, and this is just what happens, right? It's what happens when you have 3 kids under 3, and they are legitimate. There's like an era with kids where they legitimately are putting every single item that they can directly into their mouth in any capacity, licking every surface, licking every doorknob. Okay, there's that, and then there's a travel aspect. And so you just, and you're on planes and you're in these airports. These airports are pretty filthy, right? And everything's in shambles under the Biden administration. So it is what it is. And I'm no germaphobe, okay? But I am a realist, ladies and gentlemen. And that is why I subscribe to the Wellness Company. The Wellness Company keeps me going, all right? They got my back. In fact, I kid you not, just this week, I was able to do a telehealth with one of their doctors, talk about clearing up a little sinus issue we got going on, and get back in the game, right? So awesome. It's the way that being a doctor used to be, right? Take 2 pills and call me in the morning. You used to have doctors who cared about you, and health care used to be about your health. Now it's just sick care. Now it's just let me hook you on all these prescriptions in order to make sure that you're hooked on prescriptions for the rest of your life. And you're just a pharma bot. No, man. It used to be doctors that cared about you and that understood your life and the challenges of everyone's life. And everybody has different challenges. And could not emphasize enough how awesome it was to be able to get these kits sent to us, these emergency kits, to be able to get the treatments that we needed immediately, not have to wait in line for days, hours, weeks, months. Geez, if you're in Canada, years. So the Wellness Company, ladies and gentlemen, their emergency kits right here. This was the one sent to my wife, and this one was mine, okay, and is mine. They took care of us. They can take care of you. Life-saving medications, emergency antibiotics, antivirals, antiparasitics to have on hand for the challenges in life, right? Like meeting thousands of new people. That's just the way it goes, and I love it. I freaking love it. Big hugs, big handshakes, and that's just the way it goes. And then and then your kids are licking every doorknob. So you're gonna pick something up. This is how it goes, right? That's life. And so make sure you're prepared. Go to twc.health/Benny. twc.health/Benny. Enter the code Benny for 10% off. These guys are the best. They're licensed doctors and medical professionals you can trust. twc.health/Benny. Benny. Code Benny for 10% off. All right, baby. Here we go. So in preparation for tomorrow, we have a very salty lib. Eric Holder, worried that the Supreme Court will come to dangerous conclusion on Trump immunity. Oh my. Okay. So Mr. I'm Obama's wingman. It's amazing. Like, attorney generals get to protect the president when the president's a Democrat, but never when the president's a Republican. Eric Holder, sobbing about the immunity case. Now, here's the background of the immunity case, which is very, very important because this will most likely be decided tomorrow. There's no way to, for me to say 100%, but we assume as a show, based on all available evidence, this will be decided tomorrow. Here's the background.
Sandra, a few different scenarios, and you got to bet Donald Trump and Joe Biden watching both of those scenarios, or really all three I'm about to tell you scenarios closely. The longer this takes to get a Supreme Court decision, the further this pushes back Donald Trump's potential trial. But as with just about everything, there are caveats. First of all, does this even go to trial? The former president is charged with trying to overturn the 2020 elections results. Now, it was supposed to go to trial beginning in early March. That deadline came and passed. The case itself has essentially, Sandra, been on ice since late December once an appeal was announced in the case. D.C.-based federal judge Tanya Chutkan, overseeing the case, stopped all activity, at least publicly, on the docket until the issue resolves before the Supreme Court. Now, the first appeal was to the D.C. Circuit Court. Those judges ruled that Donald Trump, the former president, does not have absolute immunity to avoid charges. But the Supreme Court decided to take over and weigh in, even though the D.C. Circuit ruled unanimously that Trump does not have full immunity from prosecution. Now, we don't want to speculate what the court is doing. The case was argued at the end of April. They typically have until the end of June, which just means about another week or so to release the opinion. But depending on what they do, it could be good or bad for special counsel Jack Smith, this man right here who indicted the former president last year. If the court holds that Trump enjoys broad immunity, expect this case never to happen.
Baby, come on. Let's go. Get the salt shakers ready. We got, of course, our custom salt shaker here for the Benny Show. Get your salt shakers ready, baby. Let's salt this lib. Eric Holder's already got very, very salty hair, so let's dump some salt and help him out even more. Eric Holder, the saltiest of all libs. Let's go.
I want to ask you about the Supreme Court, and I want to ask you how you're thinking about this period where we are waiting for the extraordinary, for something that people told us we wouldn't have to worry about. We're waiting for the Supreme Court's opinion on immunity. And Trump has actually argued before the Supreme Court, and based on the questioning, has some receptive audience members to the idea that a president should be immune from prosecution. How are you thinking about this period, and do you have any predictions?
Well, I got to tell you this. I mean, anything less than a decision by the Supreme Court that says a president should be held to the laws just like any other American citizen should be. Anything other than that is absurd. The notion, for instance, that apparently some justices are fooling around with it. Well, if the president violated the criminal law but was doing so in his official capacity, there may be some basis to say that that's okay. We need to step back and think about that. Wait a minute. A president can violate the American criminal law if he or she is doing something in their official capacity. That is an absurd and dangerous conclusion. And I'm worried, given the length of time that it has taken for the Supreme Court to decide this case, that something along those lines might come out of the Supreme Court.
Oh, my. Oh, wow. Eric Holder, thank you. I've never thanked Eric Holder before. Thank you, Eric Holder. Eric Holder's such a villain. He's such a villain. We don't have time to get into it right now, but you know. But thank you. Can't believe I'm doing this. Man, what a smart guy. He just said that no president is above the law and that every president must be held into account for the criminal code in America. So what do they got him on? What do they got Trump on? Trump's like the world's foremost criminal. What do they got him on? They got him like a murder of an American citizen or something like that. Oh yeah, you got him on some business charges or some. He properly filed a business charge and listed it as a legal expense, and it was because it was for an NDA, which is a legal expense, but you were able to like contort the law and twist it to the breaking point to try and like convince an all Democrat jury with a Democrat judge. Okay, got it. So that's what you got Trump on. All right. So based on the laws of America, murdering an American without, like murdering an American period is illegal. Doing it without a trial is really bad. And doing it with the American military is really, really bad. And it's really bad if it's somebody who's like a teenager. This is what Barack Obama, your boss, did. Eric. Weird. So when's Obama's trial? Because Barack Obama killed Anwar al-Awlaki, who is a 16-year-old, very bright, very smart, young American boy who was murdered without a trial in Yemen by an American drone strike authorized by Barack Obama. So when's Obama's trial? I'm super looking forward to that. Because, Eric, you call yourself Obama's wingman. You just said that no president's above the law. And this is really bad. I mean, the Trump stuff is ridiculous in comparison to this, right? It's like nothing, like a little grain of salt. So it's like, wow, thank you for making the case for Obama's upcoming trials, along with all the, sex trafficking and human trafficking that Bill Clinton's engaged with. Look, I really look forward to that. Super look forward to that. In fact, during the Supreme Court arguments over immunity, this question was asked. Good job. Good pull, executive producer ALX. Good pull. Here we go. Here's the question was actually asked about this. Let's go.
How about President Obama's drone strikes?
So the Office of Legal Counsel looked at this very carefully and determined that, number one, the federal murder statute does apply to the executive branch. The president wasn't personally carrying out the strike, but the aiding and abetting laws are broad. And it determined that a public authority exception that's built into statutes and that applied particularly to the murder statute because it talks about unlawful killing did not apply to the drone strike. So this is actually the way that the system should function. The Department of Justice takes criminal law very seriously. It runs it through the analysis very carefully with established principles. It documents them, it explains them, and then the president can go forward in accordance with it. And there is no risk of prosecution for that course of activity.
Thank you for your...
We call that central casting, where like the lawyer for the DOJ arguing that Trump should be put in jail for a really long time because he's the orange man and he's bad and he's naughty. Oh, so why shouldn't Obama be in jail for killing a bunch of teenagers, like with the drone strike? Oh, we think that's great. We really like it when presidents do that. Like, it's called central casting. That's the voice. We have not modulated that voice at all. It's not an AI voice. We didn't say, we didn't type into AI, make a lawyer who sounds just like the voice of Bud Light. Okay? Like, make the lawyer be like the spokesperson for Bud Light. We didn't type that into AI. That just happened naturally. That this guy talks like that. Isn't that wrong? Doesn't that like undergird sort of your thought process on who actually runs the government? People who actually run the government are weak, soy-filled Marxists. And these people have been running things for quite a while. But we have just reached the point where everything has metastasized, and now you can just really see the tumor. You can see it. There are no more smart people. There are no more wise people. There are no more normal people in government. They're all lispy, weak, vengeance, vindictive, true, like mentally disturbed, like true sociopaths like that, who you could probably almost guarantee are atheists, do not believe in a higher power, believe they are the highest power on earth. The way you can say that is because it's like, You can see the way that they operate. You can see the way that they move, like their actions. Judge these people by their fruit. So, ladies and gentlemen, what do they wish to do? How are they going to defend this? Laura Trump saying that Donald Trump may accept the Republican nomination from prison. She said this last night.
And the thing that comes to mind for me is the fact that Judge Juan Merchan could very well sentence President Trump to jail or some sort of prison time, not allowing him to be there for the Republican National Convention, which is of major concern. That is lawfare in its essence, in my mind.
100%. I mean, this is election interference, Terrence, no doubt about it. And everybody can see what this is. It's amazing with this particular case, by the way, that you had several different organizations not bring it forward. The FEC wouldn't prosecute this case. They said there's nothing there. Cy Vance wouldn't prosecute this case against Donald Trump, the previous district attorney of Manhattan. He said there's no basis or merit here. Alvin Bragg himself wouldn't prosecute it until Donald Trump actually ran for president again and started gaining momentum. And they said, oh, we got to rush this thing through. So they rushed this case in, jammed it in right in the middle of an election, of course. And we all saw what happened. And then they had to wait a month and a half for sentencing, miraculously 4 days before the convention, to your point. Here's the bottom line. It doesn't matter whether Donald Trump is in Trump Tower, Mar-a-Lago, or anywhere else they may try to put him. On the day that we, as the Republican Party, will be nominating him as our official candidate and our official nominee for president, he will accept that no matter where he is. He will go on to be our candidate all the way to November 5th, when he then is reelected as our 47th president.
Well, there we go, baby. And here we go, baby. I love it when we sort of choose our topics correctly on the show, when we like sort of vibe with what people are talking about. This is obviously what Donald Trump, maybe Trump's watching the show. You have no idea, right? But Trump just posted seconds ago on Truth Social. This has been up for less than 10 minutes. The latest Fox News poll is trash. They used biased Democrat-leaning sample of voters. That's exactly what we talked about. Polling more Biden 2020 voters than Trump 2020 voters to skew the results in favor of Crooked Joe. This is exactly what we talked about. Using landlines. What you doing with the landline? And does anybody under the age of 40 know what a landline is? I am leading big in virtually every single other poll, including all of the key battleground states. Wisconsin, where I just held a massive rally. Pennsylvania, where I'll be on Saturday. Also, the number one issue in the country is not protecting democracy. It is inflation and immigration. If it is protecting democracy, Trump is your best choice, because Crooked Joe Biden is the greatest threat to democracy in the history, with his open border and weaponization of our justice system against his political opponent, me. Fox News polls have never treated me or MAGA fairly. Don't worry, we will win. Fox News will get rid of Paul Ryan and get a new pollster. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's right. Paul Ryan is on the Fox News board. So that's all you need to know. When they fire Dan Bongino, Tucker Carlson, and Steve Hilton overnight. Okay, there you go, baby. There's your little cloak and dagger. Okay, well, you won't find any of that on this program. We, of course, have no strings to hold us down. We are not owned by some massive juggernaut corporate entity where people are shoving agendas or polls or talking points down our show. We are able to speak freely, and that's because of you. You signing up for the Benny Brigade actually allows us to say and speak and to deliver the news and to talk about these things freely, to do it for as long as we wish every single day, and to do it all the time, right? So some big news breaks tonight. You know that we are ready to go up, and we will be there for you. Thank you for being there for us for the price of a large McDonald's fry per month, $5 a month. The Benny Brigade keeps us going and lets you ask questions of our guests. And we're going to be doing special call-ins to the show as members of the brigade. So go to BennyJohnson.com and you'll see the brigade logo right there. Click on that and join and support our work here. We thank you so very much. Keeps us going. And obviously, we're trying to build an ecosystem here where we have smart, sharp creators, and we don't have to like send them off to corporate media. They can actually like work here and vibe and learn and live. And That's what we're trying to create, okay? So we say thank you, we love you, and we know that times are tough. And so if you can't afford that, then we love you also, because, man, times are really, really, like economically, really, really brutal out there. So we just want to say we thank you, and we are thankful for you. The reason why we can prove that empirically is that there is no other show, I don't think, that does their best. It delivers actual good news every single show. And there have been some very, very bad news weeks over the last 3 years. There's been very bad news weeks. But we can deliver good news every single show with our verse of the day. 1 Corinthians, ladies and gentlemen, our verse of the day. Do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own. You were bought with a price. Therefore, honor God with your body. Yeah. I think there's so much to get into here, especially with the way that many people live. We have a very unhealthy nation, and it's been designed that way. And I think a lot of people are victims of it, and there are ways to break out of it. But seeing your body as a temple is something really important. Like, the powers that be want you broken and immobile and incapable and dependent. And how do you, what is a dependent human? Well, a human who is dependent on either a pill or a medical system is shackled. You are a slave, okay? And you cannot live without some institution supporting you. And you were not built like that. You were not designed like that, okay? You were designed and bought, and you were purchased for the highest price. You're talking about the blood of Christ here, the blood of Jesus Christ, who is King. And to treat your body well so that you can be less susceptible to slavery, right? And that may be slavery in the form of prescription pills, or, and I've never struggled with that personally, but I can tell you what I have struggled with: alcoholism. I can tell you in my life, I've struggled with drinking way too much alcohol and being, I would argue, dependent on it. Not in recent years, but certainly as in my 20s. I think you would absolutely put me in an alcohol, like in a functional alcoholic category, and that is also the misuse of the temple of your body. And so, whatever that thing may be for you, God provided a natural pathway out, which is sunshine and walking and vitamins and eating real food. And it's like super simple. And you do that every single day. And your life, you do that for 6 months every single day, and you are going to be unrecognizable. And you're going to feel so much better. And so these are the pathways towards health, actual health care, not sick care, right? Not like just perpetuating sickness, but like getting better and being better and treating ourselves as a temple. And ladies and gentlemen, we know that on this program here. We do everything that we can to create a healthy, strong, good nation that's built on families and not on dependency for the government. That is the thing that they fear the very, very most, and is the thing that we must protect at all costs. Ladies and gentlemen, we are fighting to protect it with you. We march alongside you. It's your boy Benny. See ya.